guys, so in this one we're going to look at magic in Carnevale, and magic plays a big old part on the Venetian scene. So if you can imagine, guys, that the rift that appeared in the sky. Now let me just recap for you, anybody that hasn't seen us talking about the background of this game. It runs a little bit like this. Some adventurers found an object. Okay, this object was of a kind of a Cthulhu-esque kind of nature. Okay, it was transported to Venice,
from darkest Africa,
in this kind of like a university, and basically lots of people started getting sick. Okay, they went to get rid of it and discovered that it had kind of melted and had seeped into the very cracks of the Venetian landscape. Okay, of the Venetian city. Around this same time, a stranger, or a harbinger as he's called, appeared on the scene. And he appeared simultaneously to the power centers, the religious power centers on the planet. So to the Tibetans, in Jerusalem, and he appeared in the Vatican. And he warned them that like a cosmological or other cosmic beings were on their way and were going to eat everybody.
As you can imagine, the big religions didn't really like this because it threatened their power structure.
It threatened the entire structure back then, because only humans were the only thing that God had created. So you can imagine. However, they reacted in different ways. The Tibetans said, "Thank you for warning us. Now please go away." The Jewish banished him and said, "Leave, get out of the city." And our friends at the Vatican did what the Vatican normally do. And they listened very carefully to it and then killed him. And as he was cut down with a knife, a similar rend or rift appeared in the sky and cut Italy in half. It appeared above Rome and just decimated the Vatican and just cut the country in two. That rend kind of opened up something. I'm not sure exactly what it is that it opened up. However, it unleashed magic.
Oh, yes.
Because the old ones who already existed on the planet, they didn't fall through this rift. The old ones already existed. That was the kind of the Cthulhu-esque, the Rashar, started to emerge more. And they were the only ones that had any experience of magic. But this rift opened up and in some way unleashed magic upon it. And a couple of things happened. Firstly, some individuals became almost like supreme beings of some sort.
The gifted, basically superheroes.
Yeah, so they have kind of almost superhero type abilities.
For instance, we have the White Dove here, who can channel magic in the particular way of her gift, which allows her to fly and shoot energy rays from her hands.
So you have individuals who seem to be more in tune with what happened in the rift. Even to the very point that some people don't even see the rift and others do see the rift. It's a very interesting concept indeed.
In the book, actually, Casanova, who's like Carnevale's narrator, describes the rift as almost a great gaping wound that's bleeding a substance over Venice, while other people describe it as just a bit of a haze in the sky. So you do have that level of sensitivity to what's going on.
Yeah. Anyway, what does it mean for us? It means that now that Venice has the magic. So this is where the factions and stuff come in, and the likes of the doctors have been experimenting, and they were experimenting on madmen and stuff like that. Nothing really happened until the rift took over, and then suddenly their experiments started to bear fruit.
They realized that if they cut the madmen in this way, their equipment went fizzy bang.
Yeah. So magic is a very interesting part of Carnevale, and it's worth spending some time on. But in this video, we're just going to show you how some of the magic actually works. Okay? So you'll find magic on page 70 in the main rulebook. Okay? And magic has the following kind of profile. Every spell has the following structure. It has a cost, which is the number of squad points a player must spend so that one character with the magician ability can take that spell.
Oh, yes.
That's fair enough. We understand that. Difficulty. This is the difficulty modifier applied to the magic roll to activate the spell. It may range between -3 and +3 dice, and you either add or subtract these dice from the roll when casting the spell. Okay, so this is some magic is more difficult to cast, some magic is easier to cast.
Makes sense.
Range. This is the maximum distance, typically in inches, but sometimes as a word or a term, that the spell can be cast. And usually the spell's range is in inches, but a range could also be one of the following. It could be a caster. A magician can only cast a spell upon himself. It could be line of sight. A magician can cast a spell on a character within line of sight, no matter how many inches away he might be. And touch. A magician can target a character with a spell only if he's in base contact with the magician. And a magician cannot cast a touch spell upon himself, only on other people. Unlimited. A magician can cast a spell on any character or point on the play area of the adventure, regardless of range or line of sight. So you can get the idea. There's a lot of flexibility here in terms of how different spells and stuff can interact with the play area. Duration, and this is interesting. This indicates how long the effect of the spell will remain active. Normally this value is a number of rounds, which can either be fixed or a variable. When a spell's duration is given in rounds, its effect ends at the end of the round, not at the beginning, so that a spell with a duration of 1 round ends at the very next end of round. Okay.
So basically, if it was something like Curse, which creates minuses to the dice roll, you'd want to cast that on something that hasn't activated yet, because if it's already been activated, it's not going to carry over to the next time it activates. It'll end this turn.
It's going to end at the end of that round. So you want to be careful with what you're casting spells upon.
As you learned.
As I have learned during our demo games. If a spell with a duration of 2 rounds, it would end on the second end of a round after it was cast. So it would last for the duration of the round we're currently in and the duration of the next round that we're in. A spell without a duration in rounds has one or other of the following durations. It can be immediate. In other words, the spell's effect is resolved immediately and then terminated. Or it can be permanent and the spell's effect is active for the rest of the game. And I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Fairly easy to get to grips with.
Then you get to a spell's effect, and this is a description of what the spell will do once it's cast until the end of its duration. And some spells might have fixed effects, whereas others will have a variable effect depending on the amount of aces scored within the magic roll. So the more aces you score, the stronger potentially the effect of the spell could be.
That is a good way of also showing almost how new to Magic everyone is. Because this is only 2 years after the Rift opened above Venice.
Yeah.
So everyone is still finding their feet with this new Magic. Except for the Richard.
Then we get to critical and fumble. Okay, so critical, this describes any additional effects you get if you roll a critical. And if the description is standard, basically that means the caster recovers the action point spent when casting the spell. So that way you could cast it, and if you get a critical, you've just cast it for free. How handy is that? Also, when a mage scores a critical on a magic roll, the spell is immune to the effects of a Nachteeth annulment, which is kind of like a dispel magic. Fumble, this describes the effects if you fumble the magic roll, and if the description is standard, the caster receives a stun counter, and you'll want to get rid of that.
So basically, magic is like, holding on to a firecracker.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be effective, just don't be holding on to it for too long.
Yeah, so if you want to, basically every spell is a self-contained item in itself. It'll describe to you exactly what you're supposed to do with that spell, and if it says standard, then you just revert back to that. So the spells themselves start on page 72 and run all the way through to page 75. And I've picked out some of my favorites, okay?
Okay.
So the first one is called Kraken's Breath.
Is that like you in the mornings?
It is. After pronouncing a series of hideous sounds that only a madman would dare to call words. Does sound like me in the morning.
Yes.
The magician points at the sky, and immediately after this, a brown whirlwind of dust, rocks, and steam hits and drowns all of those within the magician's sphere of influence.
It is you in the morning.
It is. Yeah. So here's how it breaks down. Cost, 20 points. Difficulty, minus 2d10. So
Okay.
it's quite difficult to cast this one.
Range, so you would take the minus 2d10 from the mind value.
Yes. Magic is cast from the value in your mind, and that forms your dice pool. So if your mind value is 6, you'd be casting with 4 dice instead of 6. Okay. Range is 18 inches.
Okay.
Duration is immediate, so it just has an immediate effect. And then it gets to the effect. And this spell uses a circular template. Ba-doom! First, the caster must place the template in a point of the board where he wishes to cast the Kraken's Breath. Next, he must make the magic roll. If he succeeds, the Kraken's Breath is activated on the chosen location. If he fails, the template moves as per the scatter rules. And if you're interested in the scatter rules, we covered them in the previous video.
In the shooting video.
In the shooting video, you can find out about scattering a scatter. Otherwise, it's on page 55 of your rulebook. The spell activates in the new location, and in any case, the Kraken's Breath makes a close combat attack roll with 5d10 against all characters touched by the template. Make a single roll and compare the result with all targets.
Yeah, basically your guy is being battered by all the things carried in this whirlwind.
Yeah, absolutely. Critical, if you score critical, the Kraken's Breath has the Flames universal ability, which means that it's going to ignore the protection score that any particular character has.
So you in the morning after a few pints?
Yes, absolutely. That's when it gets ultra devastating. And then if fumble, the Kraken's Breath is activated centered on the caster's head.
Oh.
Boom! Nasty. So there you get an idea of the kind of structure of a spell and how the spell itself describes.
It's usually dependent on what the spell itself is, what you're needed to cast, what happens when you fumble or crit.
Yeah.
So
moving on, I'm going to give you another one, Sam, that I think you'll enjoy. It's called They Sleep Underwater. Now, it's worth saying at this point that all spells are open to all casters. There's no limitations on spells because the magic is not owned by any particular faction. These factions don't own this magic. They just are exploring and utilizing this magic. So
just because something has a Cthulhu-esque name doesn't mean it still can't be taken by Doctor of the Hospital here.
Yeah, so it's entirely open.
You just come up with a new description in the fluff. Okay?
Yeah. The only thing to bear in mind, and it's on page 70, is that a mage can only buy a certain number of spells. Okay, so on page 70, you'll see characters able to cast spells have the mage and number in brackets universal ability, and this it's detailed in the universal abilities chapter. Basically, mage 4 means that he could buy or know up to 4 spells and pay the points cost for that. And once he knows a spell, he can cast the spell repeatedly, unless maybe the spell says otherwise. But effectively, once you know a spell, that's it. You can use it. They sleep underwater. The canticle intoned in honor of dark and ancient entities sleeping in the oceanic abyss causes the air to smell like rancid excrement. I like it already.
It's right
up your alley. I think this is excrementally better than the other spell.
I'm leaving.
It is said that this foul change in atmosphere pleases the monstrous creatures known as Rashar. Okay, so cost 18 points. Difficulty minus 2d10, so again, it's not so easy to cast. Range 8 inches, so it's not a massive range there. Duration immediate, and the effect: when this spell is casted successfully, all characters with the descriptor Rashar within range, except for the caster, immediately recover as many life points as aces obtained during this spell's magic roll.
Yep.
Now,
so it should be pointed that even the Doctor of the Hospital can take that.
But he
why would you want
to? Want it? No, it's maybe if there's some kind of allies type thing or something going on later on, you never know. It's however, critical, standard, failure, standard. So critical hit, you get to cast it for free. Standard, fumble, it actually, what does it do as a fumble? I can't remember, but it's in there. Give me 1 second, I'll find out. Fumble, the caster receives a stunt counter. That's what happens during a fumble.
Not nice, but not as bad as having the Kraken's Breath fall on you.
No. Now, and let me cover one more. This is on page 75 as well. And it's called Walk Between Worlds. The
Sounds
mage
fun.
raises his arms while he chants a mantra with a deep voice. It's you, Sam.
Hey!
Little by little, his shape begins to flicker, and his blurry contour blends with the city of Venice. His observers see him relax and smile gladly before they lose sight of him. Let's find out what it does. Cost 10 points. That's not bad. Difficulty minus 2d10. So again, it's on the kind of the harder side to cast. Range, caster, so it's upon himself. Yeah. Duration, 1 round, which means that whatever point you cast that in the round, it's going to stop at the end of that round. Okay. The effect, the caster becomes practically transparent. Although enemies may vaguely guess his contour, they find it very hard to attack him. To begin with, once the spell has been successfully casted, the caster won't provoke attacks of opportunity of any kind. Besides, all the enemies will get a -4 penalty in their close combat or range attack rolls to hit the magician, as well as a -4 penalty to all magic rolls to cast spells targeting him. So he's going to be nigh impossible to hit or hurt at this stage.
That would be good for if you're trying to capture an objective. Send that guy invisible up to catch the thing.
Yeah. If a character affected by this spell makes any action, which entails interacting with another character, friend or foe, such as making a close combat attack, shooting, or casting a spell, the effects of Walk Between Worlds will disappear.
Okay. Important thing to bear in mind.
Need to keep that in mind. The character under the effects of this spell can't control areas or targets in an adventure. You can't, so that's your kind of idea of controlling
an objective
out the window.
Well.
But remember, it's still an easy way to get him to an objective without people shooting at him. So it's and you can't place any area of effect to affect this model unless the area of effect affects another model of his squad at the same time.
Okay.
So that's the likes of your grenades and things like that.
So if he was standing near to one of his other guys and he got hit by a grenade, but it would still affect him.
Yeah, but he'd have to be near one of his other guys.
Otherwise it wouldn't.
Yeah. The character affected by this spell may voluntarily cancel the effect of the spell in order to be the target of spells or universal abilities that can be beneficial, such as healing, etc. After this, the character needs to cast a spell again with a new magic roll if he wants to be affected by the spell again. Critical, you cast it for free. Fumble, you're stunned.
Okay, you're stunned.
So, that's all well and good.
Yeah.
Casting magic. But what I want to know is, can you dispel it? And the answer is yes, there is dispel magic. One of the dispel magic things is here on page 72. The mage, it's called dispel magic. The mage bites his own lip until blood runs down his chin. Then he raises a single hand holding his fingers in an awkward and arcane position.
That's Justin flirting, isn't it?
It's like, metal! And the spell that was plaguing him ends with a sound that some say resembles the popping of a cork.
It is Justin flirting.
It is, yeah. Cost 5 points, very reasonable.
Okay.
Difficulty special, so we'll come to that in a second. Range 12 inches, duration immediate, effect. When this spell is successfully cast, it immediately cancels another active spell chosen by the caster. The difficulty of the magic roll is a penalty equal to half the mind attribute of the target spell's caster. So let's think about that for a second. The difficulty of the magic roll, so this is where it was difficulty special, is a penalty equal to half the mind attribute of the target spell's caster. So you're casting something. Okay. And you have a mind of 6. That means that the difficulty of this is -3.
So you'd have to get anything over 3 to dispel it.
No.
Oh,
it means
-3 dice.
I remove 3 dice.
Yes, that's it.
Dice from my dice roll. So if I'm a 6 on my mind, that means that I'm only rolling 3.
Yes.
So whatever your mind is, my penalty is half of that.
Yes, I get you now.
Okay. Critical, I cast it for free. Fumble, I get a stun.
Okay.
So guys, there you can start to get a flavor.
Well, did we mention karma points?
No, we didn't.
A very important side of magic. When casting a spell, as well as spending an action point to cast it, you also have to spend 1 karma point. So, first spell, 1 karma point and 1 action point. Second spell, you spend your action point as usual, but you then have to spend 2 karma points. So on and so forth.
Well, yeah, third spell, 1 action point, but 3 karma points.
Yep, and this keeps going until the end of the activation.
And again, this balances magic. It gives that magic becomes exponentially, not excrementally, more costly to spell to cast, and I think it causes magic to have a big effect in the game, but it's not overpowered.
Yes, it isn't like I think I said earlier. It's not the big dramatic fantasy wizard kind of
because
magic.
they're not. They don't have that level of control over it.
It's a more insidious sort of magic, which suits this style of game very well.
Yeah. So, guys, there you have it on magic. It's an essential part of the game. It's one you're going to have a lot of fun with. Some of the names, there are Immediate Healing, Mother Hydra's Claws.
That's a good one.
You'll enjoy that. The Gnatch Teeth Annulment, which I had mentioned earlier, but you can read about it on page 73. And Mist from the Abyss.
Oh, no, you're going to love that one.
I'm going to love that one. It's like poetry to me. I wonder, is it excremental? Anyway, guys, if you have questions...
Even if it isn't, I'm sure you can make it.
If you have questions about magic, get them in the comments below. And let us know what you think. And if you have any comments yourself or any uses of magic or any tips on magic spells and how you would use them, again, get them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy the rest of this series.